As you can see, Cat has been replaced by equipment and memorabilia, and I am here alone. Although I have Ryan with me. Ryan, you want to come on for a second and say howdy? Did I catch you off guard? Huh? No, Ryan. Okay. All right. He is here though. I just talked to him a second ago. So tonight's show is going to be a little different than what we have done when Kat and I are doing the show. I'm going to focus tonight entirely on collecting Hollywood memorabilia, collecting even a little fringy stuff as well that falls in and out of the Hollywood category. So we're going to run down, starting off with focusing on Hollywood collecting, and then move into personal celebrity collections. A lot of the things that we do sell on either the studio store site or our auction sites sometimes are personal items of myself, Carrie, or my mother, or Kat. So in a way, you've drifted a little bit out of the movie, TV arena into celebrity collecting. And of course, then we're going to cover autographs and all the subcategories along the way. Ryan is with me, and he's somewhat of an expert on collecting autographs. And oh, there he is. So now you can say hi.
Hi.
There he is. Okay, so I've asked Ryan to come because I've seen Ryan's collection, and he has a pretty extensive autograph collection, as well as a pretty amazing action figure and other collectible artifacts. And so I wanted to let you talk just as an outside collector, what that, how that grew and came to be. And I'll just bring you into it as we move along.
Absolutely.
And you're willing to share your private stash with everybody.
My stash.
Well, that's what I consider what I have, somewhat of a stash of sorts. Anyway, so
a different kind of stash.
Well, that was the thing I brought up. I have made a list of all the different kinds of collecting. I suppose you could go on and on and on in subcategories, but I've made a little list. I'll read it to you just so you can sort of hear where we're headed. Costumes, props. Now, props, of course, could be anything, from something like this, to something used in the movie as a prop. The Maltese Falcon, in a way, is a prop. So there are lots of levels of props. Could be something very small. Certainly a lightsaber is a prop, things like that. Then I was going to do paper and stills and posters. So paper to me is a huge category. It's very easy to get into. You can collect it, let's just say, less expensive. But then the subcategory comes into that, which is autographed stills, for an example, is a big deal, or even autographed checks of stars. And these are things Ryan has been collecting for. How long? You've been collecting that, Ryan?
Really, actually, just since COVID. So 6 years.
All right.
It's actually pretty long. Now that I think about it.
So it took a world pandemic to get you into collecting.
Yeah, I know, right?
I figure whatever it takes. So before that, were you focused on the action figures and stuff?
I was. That's exactly right. It was, I had a lot of action figures that were very nostalgic to me. It kind of reminded me of, when I would play with those toys as a kid. So when I would see them, come out in the wild in their original form in the package, you're, as the collector, you gobble those up. But now, you mentioned it earlier. Now it's kind of like those things I want to replace with the autographs. The autographs have become the thing that I have to have, every single one of them. So,
and how did you catch that? How did you catch that disease?
My brother was collecting them before I was, not too long before I was, and he said, "Hey, I have this and this," and I thought, I don't really care about that. And then you get onto the auction sites and you just start catching that collecting bug, and then it's just, you know the feeling.
Oh, I know the feeling. And I used to sit with,
and you're just like, I gotta have that one.
I used to sit with my mother, and at the MGM auctions, and I was only like 11 years old or something, but I was staring at her, and it became like, I have to have all the costumes from that particular movie or all the costumes from a particular person. And I mean, it was the first time I'd ever seen quite an obsession quite like that, and then it became, oh, I need the furniture and maybe the props. And and now while all that was going on, I'm looking at her and I'm saying to myself, well, if you're going to go to that trouble, why not the lights and the cameras and everything else? And I actually ended up blurting that out at one point. And she said, yeah, let's do it. So that's how I got started in my little area initially, was strictly cameras and lights and technical things. And eventually all this stuff, after many attempts, ended up in our museum at the hotel here in Las Vegas, in which case we put a lot of things on displays in groups. So now all of a sudden you had, take the movie Gaslight, which is an Academy Award winning film for Ingrid Bergman and Charles Boyer. But we had the main dress, which was the MacGuffin, like the Maltese Falcon. It had the jewels in the dress where the jewels were hidden through the whole movie, and Charles Boyer could never find the jewels. So she had the props and all the costumes. Angela Lansbury was in it, and then pretty soon it was a few pieces of furniture. So when we built the set in Vegas, we built the set and we laid everything out, and you had the entire movie. And I have to admit, it was pretty cool. So then I like put like a camera, like the one over my shoulder, on the set with the lights. So all of a sudden you saw how it was done, the kind of equipment that was used, and thus began our obsession. But it isn't unlike what you're talking about. It's just, she had a lot of money, but also nobody's collecting. I mean, this is back when, nobody was collecting. I mean, autographs have been collectible, down to back to the 1900s. People would walk up to their favorite star and say, could you sign this? So there's always been that, but I don't think they were ever as valuable as they have become. And that's partly because there's such a vast array of older stars that have faded and gone away. And so those become very more and more valuable. And what you're doing in effect is you're collecting because you feel like a certain group is what you want for a certain bunch of people from a particular show or movie. But then you're also thinking to yourself, wow, this person's not going to be around forever, and then what? Exactly. And I've watched the then what a lot. And I've seen something that was worth something very small explode because they're not around anymore. And not the least of which example of that is my sister. My mother signed way more autographs over a wider period of time. A Debbie autograph is worth about, on a real item, is worth about $100. And a Carrie autograph is worth like $600 or more, depending on what it's on. And so you start to ask yourself, well, how could that be? It makes no sense. But it had to do with scarcity and otherwise. And now, of course, as Debbie has gone longer and there are more and more collectors, Debbie's prices are going up. Now, some of that has to do with me squawking about bogus signatures and about the false artifacts, especially on eBay and other sites where people are using technology to recreate signatures. I mean, how do you know that that's Carrie's signature or Debbie's signature or whoever? So and I know, and we're going to talk about this at great length when we get to that part of the segment, but I'm giving you a little preview of what we're going to get into. And hopefully it's going to leave you with some information in your category or inspire you to be aware of a category that might turn you on. Because there is a lot of stuff. I said earlier to Seth, bring out the something from each category. And as you can see, I mean, if you look carefully, I am just surrounded with stuff right now. All the way from a few dollars up to $100,000, or more. So it's interesting to see how this, has folded out or unfolded. All right. So with that, is there anything we want to say setup wise for the show? Are we good to go?
I think we're good to go.
All right. We're good to go. All right. So I'm going to start off talking about costumes a little bit. And there's no better way to do that than for me to stand up and turn on a film clip of my mother saying why she collected, because she primarily collected costumes. So I'm going to get up and walk down here and start it, and he'll switch the camera and follow me. And we're going to start a really cool, nice little dance step there. I learned that from my mom and Gene Kelly when I was younger. We're going to start this clip of my mom. Get ready to switch to playback.
MGM made great pictures. Films like Showboat and The Three Musketeers, Meet Me in St. Louis, and they were all filmed right there on the studio's back lots. Well, MGM's gone through a lot of changes since Louis B. Mayer ran it, but this magical studio will always have a special place in my heart. My collection comes from all the great movie studios, and when I heard that the owners of these studios were about to sell off all of their classic costumes, including everything from Cleopatra and Hello Dolly and Sound of Music, even Marilyn Monroe's famous halter dress from the 7-Year Itch. I mean, I really couldn't stand the thought of these collections being broken up and sold all over the world or rented out as Halloween costumes. Well, I became determined that a Hollywood museum should be established. And people said, Debbie, you're crazy. Forget it. Well, that was the wrong thing to say to me. I went to auction after auction, and I bought as much as I could. It was a dream of mine. I started collecting when I needed a pretty dress. And being only 16 years old, I was making a picture called Susan Slept Here for Mr. Howard Hughes. And I didn't have any pretty clothes, but I did in the picture. So I asked if I could borrow a dress for a party for the weekend, and I was turned down. So I just thought that was unreasonable, and just to borrow my own dress and bring it back. I wasn't going to keep it. I wasn't buying it. Not allowed to buy. We could never buy any of our costumes, not any star, ever. That's why we have so many costumes to sell. So I decided that I would just drive over, and I'm small, so I was able to, and in those days, very thin. So I just climbed over the iron grate because I could slide in between. I guess like snakes do that. So I just climbed over and tossed out the dress that I wanted to wear. It was very pretty. And it had a green top and a little flower. Michael Wolff was the designer. And off I went. And I went to the party, and I just had a wonderful time. Did not mess up the dress because, of course, I didn't drink and I didn't smoke. So everything was fine. I went back the next day, and I returned the dress. I just climbed over the grate and returned the dress. So Mr. Hughes heard about that, and he was laughing. He just laughed and laughed. He said, so our security is so wonderful and so fabulous. I pay this millions of dollars probably for that. Debbie was able to come through the guard gate, climb over the grate, toss out a dress, drive away, and return it. I don't know if we have a good system, boys, but he didn't give me the dress, but I bought it years later. Oh, I heard about it through the grapevine, and then I was in the Reporter, Army Archer, it was in all the newspapers that they were having this enormous auction, and no one really could believe it, that they were going to sell off everything, but it was true. They even sold the rose bushes.
For the majority of people, it was very, very exciting. For those of us that had worked at the studio, it was rather sad. It was like watching your ancestral home sold off for back taxes.
Sprinkled amid the hordes of press and curious onlookers were celebrities like former MGM starlet Debbie Reynolds. Reynolds has long been the celebrity most associated with preserving Hollywood costumes. In 1970, Reynolds was actively working to establish a Hollywood museum, and she saw the MGM auction as her chance to begin preserving these pieces. Reynolds spent $180,000 purchasing dozens of the MGM costumes, including a dress worn by Judy Garland in The Wizard of Oz and Marilyn Monroe's famous subway dress from The 7-Year Itch.
Well, there you have it. So that was, I guess it sort of explained her reasoning, but there's a little bit more to it. My mother grew up a fan long before she was a star. So when she became a starlet, as they called her, she was all of a sudden on the lot walking amongst the likes of Gary Cooper and Betty Davis and Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn. It was mesmerizing to her. She says this, just like it would be to anybody that was a common fan, and all of a sudden you're in the middle of them, and much less working with them. Well, this gave her a different look at why to save all of this. Many of the stars, if you had have talked to them, which we did, and I did not have an interest in saving the costumes, any of that. They didn't feel it was their place or their should be their mission. Whereas my mother did take it on as her mission in life, literally. So that's how we ended up with a lot of what we have. And that actually, shall we say, oozed over into our personal lives. So my mother saved everything Carrie ever wrote to her. Even our old children's clothing she saved. Every single thing, anything Carrie would throw away for decades, my mother literally would go through the trash and remove everything and send it up to the ranch. And over the years, we just took it for granted that she was going to do this. Literally, none of us were really paying any attention to it. Now later, in 1992, she asked me to come and build her a showroom at the hotel, and I eventually built a museum there as well. And that was really a phenomenal completion of a dream for her, because we built the museum. We built the thing that all the stuff belonged in. And if it wasn't for her ex-husband extorting all the money and everything, probably that museum would still be up and running to this day, and the collection would have never been sold. So thank you, Richard Hamlet and company. But there were a lot of people around her always trying to take advantage of her. Richard Hamlet wasn't the only one. It started with other husbands and other people and business managers and accountants. Celebrities are a target, for the people with no scruples. But fortunately, throughout it all, she literally did backflips to save the collection. And that's how it ended up in Vegas. Anyway, so sitting around me right now are still parts of that collection that still survived. My mother gave me, we were on the costume conversation, all of her costumes, for example. And one of them is right behind me. I'll lean this way. That is my mother's 1963 Riviera costume, designed by Bob Mackie, her first Las Vegas costume. Well, that's kind of a big deal, right? And then over here, the gold dress is my mother's last costume from like 2014 or 15, whatever it was. And so that's a Vegas thing. We have also talked about that I still have other major costumes. For an example, let's see if I can do this without. So here's a costume sketch, which we also collect, from Singing in the Rain. This is my mother's Good Morning outfit. Now we have the costumes of Jean, Donald, and my mother. This is the costume sketch. So the costume, yes, is probably the most valuable thing in many ways, but now some of these costume sketches have become incredibly valuable as well, especially the ones from the more known designers such as Adrian, and Edith Head and people like this. And so right along with the costumes, all of a sudden the sketches, they were throwing them away at the auction. It's like whatever survived was sort of an accident. So that's a good example of something that became art. It is art. These people hand sketch these things and design these things out of thin air. It's beautiful, beautiful creations. And they became costumes, and in most cases ended up in these movies worn by great people. So in my mind, costume sketches are a phenomenal thing to collect and preserve, and they're not outrageously expensive. There are also some duplicates of these costume sketches that were released, such by like what Walter Plunkett did a re-release of some of his dresses. Bob Mackie did some costume sketch re-releases, and they're obviously valuable, but not as valuable, obviously, as the first ones. So if you don't have big money, like my mother bought a lot of costumes at the MGM auction for a few $100s that ended up selling for thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. I mean, the case of the Marilyn Monroe dresses she bought from 20th Century Fox, she paid $1,000 a dress. The subway dress went for $5.4 million, and almost every other dress was hundreds and hundreds of thousands. The Gentleman for a Blonde red sequin dress, 800,000, these kinds of numbers. So phenomenal investment. That's not why she did it. But to this day, those costumes are psychedelic numbers. Most people cannot afford to collect it. And also, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to put it in your house, and have a costume sitting there amongst other artifacts? Well, it can be cool. I know people that have done that, and it can be cool as long as you've got the money to not really think about that. Like it's once you buy it, buying and selling costumes, it could be a dangerous sport because you could overpay for something if you don't know what you're doing. I bought a costume recently of my mother's from Profiles, a heritage auction, and we ended up returning it because it was not Debbie's costume. It was used in Sing the Rain. I did an episode on this, and you should watch it if you're interested in identifying costumes, because we go through the entire identification process. We determine the costume is legitimate Singing in the Rain costume from the You Were Meant for Me number, but not Debbie's costume. For a variety of reasons, you can look up that episode. But that's the danger of buying costumes. You really know what you're buying. Are the labels right? Is it an exact match to the screen? I recently bought a National Velvet Liz Taylor costume that turned out to be a dead ringer, and we got an incredible price on it. So I could just say something, and I try to watch these things because you never know. If you don't have the competition, you can a lot of times get these things for good price. But you really better know what you're doing on costumes, because they can be a dangerous thing to collect if you don't know what you're buying. Now, when you buy stuff from us, we know where we got it from. The provenance part of the equation is solid. So it's good to buy from known sources. Typically, these larger auction houses are really important to buy from. They do a good job researching and verifying these things. Occasionally, things slip through. Well, Ryan, did you make that little list? Yeah. So here's a little list of places. Now, Heritage, of course, sells everything, literally. It's like if you can think of it, they have a collectible in that category. You could see all the currencies, and you can see all the Pokemon cards and wine and posters and magazines and everything. But they have a tremendous Hollywood department. They bought out Profiles in History, which is who we used to conduct our auctions. So they have absorbed a very large entertainment / movie section. And Oki's doing Hollywood, so that'll tell you the sales that are coming up. Now there's posters. They always have done it. Heritage has always had one of the biggest poster auctions ever. So if you're looking for posters, they have that, and they're very good at posters. I mean, some of the best. You can see I also have costume sketches, production sketches. Some of these things are highly collectible, and it even gets down to still pictures. Now stop right there. You see it says George Hurrell, and it says Portraits of Actors. Now, George Hurrell and others were very famous. You can come back to me. Were very famous still photographers in the day. Clarence Bull, Hurrell, they did a lot of high-end photography of big Hollywood celebrities. They did beautiful work. They're at the very least, they shot on large format cameras and/or cameras such as this. But even bigger than this, and even earlier than this. This is actually newer than a lot of what those pictures would have been photographed in. But those pictures that I could have bought and did buy, for $40 and $50, as you just saw, are worth $2,000 to $3,000, for 5 pictures. So you're talking now all of a sudden $400 or $500 to $1,000 per print. So that, and I don't see that going down, because original studio prints, original silver nitrate prints, or silver gelatin prints, they don't do it anymore. So it's going to get thinner and thinner. And you have to always think about that. It's like the market gets bigger and bigger, yet the original stuff is just only so big. So the stuff's going to go up. And if you're thinking like that, and you're looking at it as an investment, then it's solid. Just be careful, what things are worth. Beyond Heritage, we also had Julian's. Yep, there he is. Let me bring that up. So there's Julian's auctions. Darren Julian's been a friend of ours. We conducted auctions with him as well. Darren's company just recently sold. It's still, some of the principals still not, but Darren's no longer involved. But they have over the years specialized in celebrity personal auctions. Also have done some very big instrument auctions, musical instruments, and have done an incredible job. You see the different categories. I mean, there's no end to it. I mean, like, to me, this whole idea of a pink, purse being 9 to 5, the bidding's already at $9,000 on this thing. So it's not. By the way, there's a great example. Now, were they seeing any of that at all? Right? Let me make sure they saw that. Can we make sure they're seeing that? I was talking about this auction that's at Julian's on purses, and you could see they estimate between 10 and 20 grand for that one purse. Now, that's a classic example for, like, if I'm looking at that, I know nothing about purses. I wouldn't bid on that at all. I'm just not knowledgeable enough to bid on it. You'd be out of your mind to bid on that. So you better know something or do your research and homework if you're going to get into those kind of numbers. I also recommend that people don't collect gigantic items like right out of the box. They start in an area that they can handle until they start to get a feel for how this stuff works. What do you got? Oh, prop store. So the prop store folks are pretty interesting. Typically the prop store people, which is this website, propstoreauctions.com, they have a little different level of stuff. They get a lot of stuff right from the prop masters that are working these movies. So you know, and they sell, I mean, they have more auctions than anybody, but also they have generally more contemporary stuff and usually a little bit better price point. Now you see Aaron Flux is, you know, kind of a cool category, and these are hero pieces, a lot of these. So there's a thing from Aliens. Now it's not a hero piece, but it's a screen used piece. So some, you know, you can get into costumes in different films. Now maybe you like classic films, maybe you like more contemporary stuff, science fiction, etc. So in this case, they do a lot of stuff with more contemporary films, but they get a lot of stuff really quickly right from the movies and from a lot of science fiction stuff. But it's called the Prop Store Auctions for a reason, but you notice there are a lot of costumes there. So another site that you can get into, and it's not very oriented to Hollywood stuff. It drifts in there, sort of, is a company called Auction Zip. Now, Auction Zip sells everything all over the country, and everything from just estate sales, and it goes all the way up to businesses selling and farms selling, but it also occasionally, as you'll notice, gets into antiques and a lot of times collectibles of different types. And occasionally you'll see some pretty interesting Hollywood things show up on this site. You can also type in, as you become a member of this site, keywords of stuff you're looking for. So like for me, I have names typed in of people or movies of things that I'm looking for. Now, they don't always get my kind of stuff, but I also collect other things across the board. So I do like drifting through these sites. And then I encourage you to look at your local auction sites all around the country, wherever you live, around the world for that matter. And just look through it, see if stuff turns you on. You will see collectibles show up in there, especially estate sale, because there's other fanatics out there like you and me that have their collection. A lot of times they pass away. Their family has no idea what it is they were collecting. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, now this is Sideshow, but don't go too fast there, Ryan. But let me finish my thought. When an estate sale occurs and you had a collector that passed away, the families many times do not get the right advice. They do not sell it correctly. It ends up in a local estate auction, and you can really pick up. I have picked up unbelievable items in estate auctions all across the country, and I use that Auction Zip site for a lot of it. Now, Sideshow is a very interesting company. They make amazing replica pieces. They make what Ryan calls replica miniatures and art objects. You know, there's a beautiful Carrie Fisher piece. Now, all that stuff sold out, but you can find it on the secondary markets. But you could see they make all these different movies. They do beautiful artwork. They do beautiful replicas all the way up to, I don't think, you know, like I have this, you probably noticed at my feet here, I've got this Yoda. You know, this is the kind of stuff they will make, large replicas. This is actually a replica of the original Yoda. It's not from Sideshow, but this was made a long time ago from the original molds. And those are around, and they made a lot of these. This is not super rare. In fact, the number is on here. They made 9,500 of these Yodas. So if you want a really cool thing that's not going to break the bank, you know, watch around for a Yoda like that. It's made of latex. And Sideshow, by the way, makes life-size replicas of stormtroopers and all kinds of stuff. So as you can see on what Ryan is showing you, these are all some of their smaller things. And when it gets into the Star Wars stuff, they have every category you can think of in there. Now, Carrie stuff is all sold out. So if you want to buy a Carrie, you probably are going to have to go somewhere else. Now, the smaller ones you can get. You notice the Han Solo there, and it's a 6 scale. Now, Carrie stuff probably is a 1/4 scale. It's really cool. And these things are really good. Let me tell you that I was never into this kind of thing. And when they brought me the Princess Leia sideshow piece and stuck it in front of me, it blew my mind how good it was. And now I have a small collection of the Carrie ones that come out. So I think sideshow makes, and there's a few other companies, Ryan, I'll share it with you. But there are a lot of these things. Now, you start getting into that stuff, and we'll come back to that subject because Ryan is very knowledgeable on that. But what I was trying to explain though is if you can't start, buying hero costumes, then you can buy extras costumes from a thing, and that could be affordable. Maybe you can't afford a movie star's costume, but you could find an extras costume from the movie. Eventually, you might be able to upgrade into a star's costume at some point. I was starting to talk about older films versus contemporary films. Now, older movies, that stuff's been in the marketplace a lot longer, including the things that we sold at auction. And it doesn't turn up that often. Like, you don't see the big movies from yesterday show up a lot. Like, when was the last time you saw a Lawrence of Arabia or a Ben-Hur costume show up at auction? And the answer is rarely. So watching for that kind of stuff can be hard. But if that's your favorite movie, then hold out one day and go to an auction and try to get one, to get a piece of those movies. Now, my mother was pretty good also at collecting across the board, where she would say, I want my friends' things, their personal things. I want to go beyond collecting movie memorabilia. I want my friends' personal things. I want their jewelry or their artifacts, their watches, their furniture, their kitchen, even their, what do you call it? Not just the porcelain, but their crystal, and their dishware, china. We have stuff from every star you can think of, starting with Mary Pickford and moving up to, Ann Miller and other people that were her friends. So and that's what we're now doing. We're selling Debbie pieces, in some cases from those people, but also from Debbie herself, into the market. And this allows people to collect in a movie star arena and it's more affordable, because if it's a movie piece, it's going to be a lot more money. Today we had a sales show on, and we sold everything, from little pieces of jewelry, all the way to some pieces of china, to some linens, and all the way across the board, a little something for everybody. And it all, pretty much sold out. I think we had we had an expensive costume of my mom's that did not sell, but that goes without saying, that those are a much smaller audience than someone who can afford thousands of dollars. Now, so we've kind of covered this idea that the costumes is sort of one category. Now, props, we were looking at the prop store auction site. They sell a lot of props. So what's a prop? A prop is usually a weapon. It's usually a pivotal piece in the story, in a storyline. So in the case of the Maltese Falcon, it's the ultimate prop, right? The Maltese Falcon is a story where Humphrey Bogart is in search of this rare artifact. So a lot of times props in movies, you take the glass skull in Raiders of the Lost Ark. These are props. Now, there are lesser props. It could be just fake money. It could be Willy Wonka's tickets. It could be the Casino Royale chips that they're gambling with. And of course, this stuff is around from long ago. I see a lot of bogus stuff out there, though, so beware that is a very easy thing to fake. Years ago, somebody was saying, "Oh, we're selling the James Bond Walther PPK pistol," and they did, and in the end, it turned out to be just a random Walther PPK pistol. It was, not used in the movie. So, you got to be able to know the history of where these things come from, and how do you know that that's the gun? Especially when you're buying guns, it's a very tricky one. But guns are popular props, swords, all of that fall into the prop category. We talked about paper and stills a little bit, so we're going to be coming back to that. Furniture is a very cheap thing to get into because nobody wants to pay for the shipping. Nobody has the room for it. We have some spectacular furniture in storage containers with nowhere to put it. Just unbelievable antiques that the studio owned. So you will find a lot of heavy duty antique pieces from the movies, and you can get those very cheap. Furniture in general brings nothing at auction, and movie or television furniture is no exception. It does not do well. Cameras now, we're getting into, an area that always turned me on. I began collecting very small cameras, and I moved myself up to the cameras that are like behind me, the full motion picture cameras. My first cameras that I collected, were these kinds of cameras. Go to 2. Now you can come back to me. So these, this is the stuff I could afford to buy in the day. These were the movie cameras of the early days. And these are really cool little movie cameras, and they still work, a lot of these cameras. And some of these, if you can find the 35 millimeter ones, were used in movies as second B cameras or C cameras. They were also used extensively during World War II. The 16 millimeter cameras were more of a high-end home camera. Most people could not afford a camera like this. Now today, I sold 2 of these cameras on our auction store, and they were gone in seconds, because people know this is still an undiscovered area in terms of values of things. Cameras are an interesting one. I predict over the years they're going to get more and more valuable. You can't make any more. You can't fake it. You can't make a copy of it. It's a very interesting thing, and many of them have great stories. I have Mary Pickford's camera, and at one time I had Buster Keaton's 35 millimeter camera and some others. Sometimes the personal cameras are great. Now, my cameras are a little different. I have, say, Charlie Chaplin's 35 millimeter camera. Now, I asked Seth to bring in here the Big Bell in Hell. I don't see it. Do you see that other camera in here, the Big Bell in Hell? I don't think he remembered. But at any rate, I have, he didn't bring any other big cameras in here, did he? Nope, he did not. Anyway, I have Chaplin's original camera. No, that's not it. I have Chaplin's original 35 millimeter camera that he had while he was at Estenay Studios. And they used this camera to lure him away from Mack Sennett. And the history of this camera and the serial numbers and all of that, it's serious museum piece. So therefore, it has a certain value. Chaplin is not, say, as collectible as some people might be. When I had a couple of Star Wars cameras, I sold one of the main Star Wars camera. It brought the most of any movie camera ever sold in history. And that was the Star Wars Panavision camera. But sitting around me right now, the camera behind me, these Mitchell cameras, they have incredible pedigrees, hundreds of movies. Now, collecting a big ass camera like that, you have to know a little something about it. And these can get very expensive. The lenses can be $10,000 each for some of these lenses. Lenses are worth more than the cameras, by the way. So, but cameras can be ranged in the size of the one I just showed you, the little guy, all the way up. And there's great history sometimes associated. It's a fun thing. I also collect movie studio lights, the big lights from the old studios. I have a huge collection. I will be selling some of these off over the years. I have an entire tractor trailer load full of them. I just haven't unpacked. From every studio, from 20th Century Fox, Warner Brothers, MGM, RKO, Desilu, really cool stuff. So lights are kind of a fun thing, and they have a little connection. We briefly were talking about props. Now, weapons are props, but they have a category of their own because many of them are real. In this case, this is a prop gun used in the movies on Butch Cassidy, and it's a real gun. So it has a real serial number. It has to be registered and handled as a real gun. It's old, but it's still it could fire. So it's a real gun, and these have to be registered properly. But guns are an interesting category, and they can be really fun because I know a lot of guys like to collect guns, just generically speaking, but having a gun with a story is even better. At one point, I had a heavy collection of movie guns. We sold them in the first auction. I had Clark Gable's gun, his hunting rifle from Mongombo. I had Gary Cooper's rifle and pistol from Sergeant York. Now, these guns, by the way, sold for $100,000 kind of dollars. So that's the other problem with collecting hero guns. But you can also get beautiful replica guns that are kind of fun to start with. Like they make replicas of Clint Eastwood and John Wayne and all that. And they're really kind of cool. Musical instruments are another interesting thing. From movies, there are musical instruments, and then there's musical instruments that belong to rock and rollers or folk singers or country western people. It can be a very interesting category, but again, very dangerous because there are a lot of signed instruments that have nothing to do with the person at all. So with that, I want to go back just for a second and bring Ryan in, and I want to go back to the action figure and replicas area. Ryan has around him a huge collection that he started with. He started to explain that in an early part of the show. So Ryan, explain to us kind of what you have and how you got into it.
Well, let me jump here to my presentation. I put some pictures together. It was just a little bit easier with my being on Zoom here.
Sure.
But I would say, okay, so what you're looking at here, a lot of what I have, and I have only a fingernail displayed in my little man cave down here. I mean, I have so much stuff that's in tubs and crates, and you know how it is. Like, it's impossible to like, oh, I really want this autograph, I should sell these things. But how do you decide? It's like Sophie's Choice.
Yeah.
How do you decide which one to give to get rid of? It's so hard. But
well, you could wait around for a rich relative to die, and then you could keep it all.
I guess. But like a lot of these things here, like the Bionic Woman stuff, I remember watching that. This was all nostalgia. So I keep all of it. I display all of it because this was kind of.
Now that bigger doll looks a little worn out. What have you been doing with that doll?
What doll? The Bionic Woman doll?
Yeah, the big one in the back. She looks tired and worn out. You play the hell out, but she's.
I bought the box, but they weren't mine. I ended up buying them on the market.
Yeah, but she looks like you've been playing with that doll. Do you still play with that doll?
No, I bought that figure loose.
Ah.
And I bought a pristine
box.
Box.
Imagine.
Because I wanted the box.
Imagine that somebody had the foresight to think about that. You know, a box is going to somehow be worth a ton of money.
I know.
How much did the box cost? Roughly.
I want to say 40 or 50 bucks.
Right.
Now the figure on the left, that Fembot figure, that is probably a 5 or 6. That is in the box. It's from the 70s. That's one of the more vintage things I have that's untouched. That's probably a $400, $500, $600 or more, depending on who buys it.
Amazing.
But again, I just wouldn't want to get rid of that. But those are really old. Even those cups on the side there are.
Oh, I'm getting a text. I'm getting a text right now. Someone says they'll go $650.
I'll think about it. And then we get to, here are more. And again.
Now this is at your favorite retail store. This is not you.
I know. There was no, this is me.
I know, I'm teasing. I knew. I wanted you to explain.
I ended up buying those. Music Place went out of business, so I bought those. I mean, they're perfect for this sort of thing. I can display them. But these are those Harry Potter figures. I mean, you buy them at the time. That was 20 years ago, so I was an adult. But of course, I thought, oh, this will be such a big movie. It's an investment. And that's what I started to do because I knew the Star Wars phenomenon, the untouched.
And so how is the price of those type of collectibles in comparison to early Star Wars collectibles? How are they compare?
There are a few gems, and there might be one or two that I have that I can show you. But, here's the thing. Like, I started looking at those Harry Potter ones, and you could make, like, if I were to sell those on eBay, and I have sold some figures on eBay, the problem is till you pay the fees, till you pay the shipping, you don't really make anything, really. So it's kind of hard. Like, I don't really know who to sell these things to be perfectly honest. I mean, they have toys,
collectible shops.
And they have like shows that go on, periodically locally. You can rent a few tables and sell to people. So I've thought about doing things like that. Now this Firehouse is another one. Like, that's probably an $800, $900 because that's from the 80s. It's in the whole box. It hasn't been touched. And it's like, those are the things, those Dukes of Hazzard, those are from the 70s. Those figures are in their own boxes. So, if I found the right place to get rid of them, I know that I could. Do you want
to sort of change your the collection's complexity or what's in it, contents?
Oh, I would love to thin this out. Like even these games, like I've had these games for a while, and they're old. You can see they're old. Some of them I played with, but you know, like I know that some people, they're so vintage that I know someone would love them. Even those trading cards they're in the box. They're from, you know, the 80s.
Yeah, you know, but I will say one common thread about all of this is everything you have almost, it relates to television or film.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. And this, and like I said, what you're seeing is only like a fingernail. Now, these are pretty expensive. So these, you and I were talking earlier about the sideshow figures. This is done by someone named Todd McFarlane, and he does, you know, movie, horror, that sort of thing. These are big. Like I should have made the scale a little bit better. But that King Kong in the box is worth a lot of money. That
well, give us a number.
I haven't looked lately, but I knew at one point, like, and I'm just using eBay as the reference, but you know, it was 90, 100 or more. And that was a couple years ago when I looked. But again, like, I don't really take that seriously because how am I going to ship that to somebody? It's massive. It's massive. I would spend $40 on shipping.
Yeah. And to protect the box.
A lot of those. These are my figures when I was a kid. These are like the actual original.
Now explain the difference though, when you find it like that compared to it in the original packaging, how it affects the price.
Oh, now with that said, you can see there's a little, on the right-hand side, there's a little loose guy. He's in red, this little alien looking guy. There's a version of him in the blue that is worth loose. You can get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars depending on how. I do have one.
But if you take an original 1977 Princess Leia out of the box that was in one kit like that, how does that compare in price to the original Kenner 1977?
Oh, it's like driving a new car off the lot. I mean, your price dips tremendously. But in the Star Wars world, there are really these fine nuances. Like there's a Darth Vader version where the lightsaber he has is like a special. There's a special version of it, and if you have that special version, even loose, you know, that's just a huge collectible. So there are some variations of some of these loose ones. I don't have any of them, but
let me show everybody something you're probably familiar with too. And maybe you know who makes these these lightsabers that are made. Now this lightsaber, I'm going to show it on the close-up camera because this thing is amazing, and I'm going to show it to you close up so you can see how well this is made. I mean, this thing is in really detailed condition. It's remarkable. And I'm going to show you one step better. Here's a real lightsaber next to it. I mean, and this is Carrie's lightsaber. It's got her name on it and everything. But you could see what trouble they went to make some of these lightsabers. Now there are obviously cheaper ones, but these can get up into the hundreds of dollars. I've got several of them up on stage. I think I paid like when I had to go get one, I had to get a second one time for Kat. And some of them are cheaper. Like take a look at this one close up. This one is less expensive the way it's put together, but it isn't bad.
That's what I've got.
That one. So this one was less money. The other one I'm showing you probably would go for $500. There's also a Yoda one I have over here, but who makes those things? Do you remember, or do you know?
I'm not sure who makes these, but but I wouldn't minimize. I mean, these were still a couple $100.
Oh, I'm not minimizing. I'm just saying there's a difference, obviously, in the quality.
Yeah. I don't think mine have the batteries in it, but
mine does.
And I would go to school, you know, and you would play with these, and everyone wanted to get their hands on it. It's like, no, don't touch it. Don't smack it. Yeah, there it is.
I mean, that's pretty cool technology, even for yesterday. I'll tell you how I ended up with these. Mine, I never owned one of those. Carrie had a couple of them at her house. They ended up at the ranch, a couple of them. When Carrie died, though, a couple of people left some lightsabers out against her gate with a bunch of other things at her front gate, and including this one here, which was a Yoda. this is like a little Yoda version. Close up. I don't know if you've ever seen that one, but this has a green. It has a green light, and this was the what I call the Yoda. It works the same though.
Oh yeah.
But so a couple of those were left at the front gate, and so I ended up. I think when it was all said and done, I think I might have had 3 or 4 lightsabers, and then I had an event at the Grauman's Chinese Theater, and I needed another one for Kat. So I went out and I bought one from one of those collectible stores, where the entire store looks like your house. You know, looks like your basement there. There's just collectible stuff of all categories everywhere. And they had one of these brand new in the box there, and I think I played close to $500. And when he showed it to me, I went, "Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, that's great." Then I'll take it. And we go to the counter, and he goes, "Okay, that's $526." I said, "What? It's a toy." He goes, "Oh no, this is no toy.
No.
This is no toy." And then you gave me a hard time too when I misused that term. Toy versus action figure. Well, I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead. You were getting into your. We were talking about the comparisons between the we'll call it the packaged Star Wars stuff versus the stuff you play with. So, how would you advise people to watch for this stuff?
Well, you know, what I see. I mean, I'm very reluctant to buy anything. You talked about eBay. I'm very reluctant to buy things on eBay. Now, this I bought on eBay. This costume and mask. Again, it was open. It's kind of in a little rough shape, but I thought it was really unique. It added to my display, and it was, again, I remember wearing those as a kid, like those, not Princess Leia, of course, but you know, I remember wearing those packaged costumes, but. Like for the action figures themselves, you have to like watch out. Like people re-glue, believe it or not, they re-glue those bubbles that they, you know, that the figures are in. So there's a lot of talk that I see online about, you know, whether they're re-glued or whether they're truly original. So unless you really, and you can tell by the price. I mean, you have an original Princess Leia from the 70s, and that's, you know, that's worth a bundle. But
well, and it's also
tries to sell,
you know, it's Carrie's, which makes it different. I mean, one of the things that is unique about some of the things that we have is when we sell something, you know where it's coming from, and a lot of times, if it specifically relates to Carrie or my mother, then you know what you're getting. So more games. Oh, the lunch pails. You see, I know this. Yeah, I've seen people collect lunch pails.
And this is not as valuable. I heard you talking the other day about this. Like of course, the Star Wars stuff is super valuable. Empire is more, it's a little less valuable, but still valuable. And then Return of the Jedi is even a little less valuable. But these original things, like I have a lot of stuff from Empire. You can see like the little plates that I would eat out off of. And a lot of this was, now the Empire I got from the auction, the original auction.
You bought that from us?
But yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Should have told me. I might have been able to work you a deal.
No, that's okay. I was happy to do it. And that's original. That little, that thing's in the box. The cards are original. So, you know, one of the one on the left is a redo. That's the 50th anniversary. You can see the little 50. So that's kind of the version that they've done in commemoration of the movie. But, and then the one next to it is legit. But it's, I mean, that's a good figure, but it's not anywhere close to the original movie. So I mean, I have a lot of Return of the Jedi stuff, but, you know, and then of course I have all of this and more than that. That's all I could put out. That looks impressive, but
yeah,
they're not anywhere close in value. Now, some of the ones at the top are pretty good. Those might be like worth a little bit.
I don't know why he put this out, but I'm gonna. So Ryan put an action figure out close up. So and he just put this out. This is not valuable, but I have an older like this. Is this? Would you say this is an early generation? This is a re-release, right?
Oh, that's probably, if you looked on the back, I'm going to guess it's going to be like 97, 90.
97 on the money.
Okay.
So this is Hasbro. So the original ones, which I do have of this, are worth obviously more than something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
and even look at the card; it's ugly. Like it's just not.
well,
as
there's
ugly
a slide in here. It says free frame action slide, actual movie frame. So I didn't know that. So you can actually, it's backlit too. It's clever. But I could see how this
it
is.
just doesn't have the same look of the originals. The original packaging just had, you just knew it. It was just Star Wars. So some of these other ones, and even the ones that you see on my screen there, the lower half, those were the new films. They're ugly.
Well, how much is
they're not worth it.
How much? But if let's say you're starting, you can start out at how much are those things?
Yeah.
I mean,
bet you could find a lot of those on eBay for dollars.
Yeah.
Like,
so it's like if you don't have any money, it's a fun place to start. Then you could trade up, and you might stumble on something more valuable. So I do, but I also noticed over your shoulder, you've got a big autographed Carrie picture up on the wall up there. Right.
No.
Yeah, there's a Carrie profile picture right up on the wall behind you. Yep.
You mean that one?
Yeah.
No, that's Leslie's drawing.
Oh, she did a good job on it because from here it looks like a photo. But you do have some signed Carrie stuff, right?
Oh, that's coming later. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to get into autographs in a second here. So we did the so I'm going to come back to autographs again. I'm going to hit. I'm going to show a couple of different things here, sort of heading back to the scripts and things like that. So other paper items that you can, movie paper items, you will see scripts on the market. Many of them are real, I've noticed, even on eBay. And you can usually tell a real script. They'll have bait stamps on them. They have a certain feel and look about them. You should do some research, obviously. But like, for example, this is a script that we just bought recently. I'll show it on the close-up. That is a Gone with the Wind script. An original Gone with the Wind script is what they call a continuity script. And this script belonged to Hal Kern, who was the editor and won the Academy Award for editing Gone with the Wind. So this is an important piece of memorabilia. So this script has a lot of interesting history. Now, I also have a script over here of my mother's from the Unsinkable Molly Brown. This is bound by her. She had this bound. And you could see Molly Brown. And then, inside they actually, they have all the changes that were made with the different colored pages, but they also inserted still pictures to go with these scripts. Now, this is at my mother's request. So in many cases, there are stills that go with the scene, which is fun, right? So as you're reading the script, you see the still picture. Now that's rare, but these come up, buddy. And this company, I have purchased these. California Bookbinding Company, they're out of business now. They were in Hollywood on Selma Avenue. They bound a lot of my mom's scripts, about 90% of them. And I see things all the time, high-end scripts, when they come up on these auctions. Watch that stuff because you might find your favorite film in a script and you might get it bound like this. And that usually means a celebrity or a production affiliate, producer, director, or someone who worked in the movie had it bound like this. So those are pretty rare, but they're gettable is the point. I brought up cameras for a second, and I want to address something kind of cool. So this camera, come up to me, my camera. This is a Speed Graphics camera from the pretty much used in the 30s, 40s, 50s. And it was an excellent camera, shot 4x5 pictures. And a lot of your celebrity pictures were shot with this. One of my earliest photographs of me touching a camera was touching one of these and changing the flash bulb. Well, what's cool about this flash bulb situation here? So if I disconnect this flash bulb and I slide it out of this little holder, they used to hold sometimes the flash off to the side, and there's a button on here to trigger the flash from the side. This tube that you're looking at held D-cell batteries. What do you think this is? The Star Wars lightsabers were made from Speed Graphics tubes from their strobe lights. Now, you notice on the Star Wars, the top, I'm going to show you something on the top of this. You see the top close up? That top part, come back to me. This is the flash bulb and the flash top. Plugs in. Here's Carrie's lightsaber. Decades later, I just plugged in the flash and I would trigger the strobe by hitting this button. These were made from Speed Graphics strobe lights, and they had lots of accessories. So I have a couple of these in a couple of versions. But how cool is that? These prop men were so clever. Check that, that they took these tubes and turned them into lightsabers. They didn't, like, what inventive people, sitting around going, Lucas is saying, I have no money. I need lightsabers, and then you say, well, what the hell? We can't build them from scratch. So they go out and they buy old 1940s, 30s and 40s strobe light tubes and install them, a little bit of rubber and a couple little things added on. Virtually nothing is added on. I'm going to do a little more special on this kind of stuff some other time. For example, I have my sister's blaster from Star Wars, and the blaster, believe it or not, is a real gun, and it was made from a Russian target pistol. And they just added on that front piece to make it look exotic and space age. So now those items, the ones that are screen used, are psychedelic prices. But there are replicas of lightsabers and blasters and different things that if you shop around, you could find one, and it is kind of fun, and they are very good. I mean, some of these really, there's some very high-end replica weapons, lightsabers, and I believe Sideshow might have been the company that made them originally, but they make some very good replica lightsabers, for example. And some of the people took these lightsabers to places like those autograph shows like Ryan was talking about, and they got them autographed, and that just, forget it. They could go for thousands of dollars like that. So, if you can't afford to buy a real one, which can be hundreds of thousands, there's a lot of ways to do it here. We just showed you the difference between the one that was made by a toy manufacturer, but a very good job. This is very accurate, man. I mean, very accurate. I don't even know. I can't imagine they went to this kind of trouble for this part. And then I showed you then Carrie's real one, and I showed you what it was made from. So it's kind of an interesting journey on how those things got made. But if you're going to collect something like that, you pretty much better start with a good replica, because otherwise you're in for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Switching over really quick, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time on that. We have sold a lot of household type of items on this show. Even today, we sold a guacamole serving tray. And I'm trying to see if we kept any of it up here. But those items can be very interesting to have. Like if you know that it came from the Ann Miller or somebody famous as estate. I have famous people's golf clubs. I mean, it means something to me. I mean, because I'm a golfer and I like it. It's cool. I mean, but a friend of mine has a set of John F. Kennedy's golf clubs. Well, I mean, the golf clubs are really not worth much because they're old, outdated golf clubs. But the fact that they're John F. Kennedy's golf clubs, come on. So it means something to somebody, and therefore there's enough people willing to pay, drives the price up. That's the name of the game. Find a thing that no one has identified yet, as the thing to collect. We have also sold letters, checks, letters, things like that. These can be very valuable because of their subject matter. If it's somebody writing to somebody famous, that's important. What they're saying is important. Did they sign it? How did they sign it? Letters have a life of their own. And I can tell you right now that letters that were written even hundreds of years ago go up for auction all the time on Heritage. Take a look at their documents page. They sell, everything from the founding fathers on down. And it's very interesting and historic to see what people were saying and writing at the time. I have letters between, my mother and Eddie, and Elizabeth and Eddie, and Elizabeth and my mother. And it tells a story that's unwritten, and it's written. These notes are written by them about different things that have been written about. So it is a very interesting piece of history. And so that brings us to when you get a letter, or something like that, and it's autographed, how the heck do you verify this? So, like in my world, I don't get involved with autographs because I don't understand them and I don't know how to authenticate everybody's autograph. But I know somebody who's with us that does. He collects autographs. We're going to let Ryan take it off a little bit here. I'll put in my 2 cents worth, but I can tell you that I collect autographs that I know what they are. Other than that, you got to go get it authenticated, or you got to know somebody. So here comes Ryan.
Well, and Todd, definitely jump in and ask questions. But what I can say is, I mentioned this earlier, when COVID happened, I was at home like everyone else, and I started watching these Facebook auctions, not unlike something we did earlier today, but it was all on autographs. And I bought one or two here just, for fun. And probably being inside for all of that time didn't help, because then that just became the regular thing, and it grew and it grew and it grew. And it just unfolded into this situation I have now, where I literally have hundreds and hundreds of these autographs, and I have Excel sheets, tracking them, and the whole 9 yards. So I have learned a lot about autographing, and I have learned how to start, and definitely how to, and I'm not perfect with picking out the forgeries, but I have become pretty adept at figuring out that. But anyway, I just put a few things together because this is something anyone could do pretty affordably, like right now. And if you just wanted a piece or two, there are, definitely places you can go to do that I can recommend. And there are some things that I'll share with you that I considered. So what I would say is, so these are, Timothy Chalamet, he's in a bunch of hot water right now, but that's one of my better ones that I recently got. But the one, of course, on the left of the Star Wars, that's my good one. By the way, the mat was made by our guy, Matt's Mats. He's the guy who does all of our frames for the checks. But
getting all 3 autographs is a big deal, right?
Well, and here was the thing. So I originally bought the Carrie one. I had this picture in mind. I could have bought other Carrie ones, and I have other Carrie autographs, but I wanted a particular picture. That was the picture I wanted. I loved when it came to me, and it was like $900, but I was willing to pay it because the autograph is big. It was authenticated. And I knew I could.
How big are we looking at? What's the scale?
The whole frame is I think that's a 16 by 20, and the picture itself is 8 by 10.
Okay.
But I knew I could probably get the other 2. And sure enough, about a year ago, little over a year ago, Mark Hamill had a signing. So I knew it was legit, had to send the photo in. They're pricey. The Star Wars folks are pricey. Mark, probably another $700 to get that signed, like you see.
Yep.
And then Harrison was the bad boy. So that just got back to me a couple months ago, but that was $1,100.
Yeah,
so
you got to tell us. You got to tell us, because I want people to really be realistic of know what they're getting themselves into. I mean, trying to collect this is what I meant about grouping and collecting everything from a particular subject, particular movie. That becomes the obsession. What you just saw, it became. I mean, tell me that wasn't on your mind for years.
Oh, it was. And it was when I bought the Carrie autograph, that was my intention. I intended to get no matter, I was going to make it happen that I got the other 2, because Harrison is not a young guy anymore. So I was worried about that. But as soon as you have all 3 of them on there, ooh, now your value.
Yeah. Well,
up.
Here's let's go close up camera for a second. Earlier in the show today, we put on this, we put a Carrie Fisher signed check up in there. And this is her early signature, but it still bears traits of her later signatures. But this is a Star Wars era check written by Carrie. And we do have some of these, I believe, I might be wrong, on the studio store. Do we actually have any of these? If
we might have at least one, but that didn't sell. So that will be going up on the
So we have different we have different checks of my mother and sister. It's a certain category of a signature, but the one thing you could be sure of is that they're real. This is the danger of spending that kind of money on an eBay. And we were talking about this earlier too, so we'll go into this right now. A guy will sell something on eBay and I said, no, but it comes with a certificate of authentication. And you're like, really? Who signed it? He goes, well, I did. And you're like, well, who are you again? It's like the certificate is only as good as who is signing it and filling it out. So if you get a certificate from myself, you're getting my expertise, my knowledge of where the stuff had come from directly. And I have a serious history for 50 years of collecting Hollywood memorabilia myself, but also been involved even longer than that. I know that's hard for you guys to believe, but it's true. My first experience at being in auctions with my mother, I was 10 years old. So, that was 58 years ago. So I've been watching collecting for 58 years. I've seen it all. And I've also seen how these things have appreciated. And I also have my sense of regrets where it's like, shoot, I should have bought those when I could. So in another 50 years, you might find yourself saying the same thing. So, making those tough decisions, that's what you've been doing. You're faced with all kinds of directions that you can go in. So how do you decide?
That's exactly it. So like, if you're just starting, and it was the same way for me, like what types of things do I want? I ended up turning mostly to photographs. So like, these are some, these are just personal to me, but I love them. I love the movies. These are, some of my better ones. But, these Funko figures, I don't like them. I have a few. This is just, Leslie Ann Warren. I love the movie Clue, so that's why I have it. It was a pretty good price. I think I only spent $40 on this, so not a lot of money.
Signed?
But that's signed. Yeah.
No, but I mean $40 signed. It was the toy and the 40. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You find deals like that every once in a while.
Well, some people would feel differently about this thing than you would, because they maybe they grew up or played with it. I mean, my sister used to play with those little Damn It dolls or troll dolls, and some of those became crazy expensive. My mother was buying crazy things for Carrie when we were growing up. My mother collected for us even when I was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. She collected Meissen and Dresden soldiers for me, which now are unbelievably expensive, and I don't even know where to put them right now. She collected Limoges French high-end playhouse furniture. Some of it's gold and porcelain for Carrie in her playhouse. So this furniture was like Louis XIV porcelain and gold furniture, and some of that stuff, psychedelic. So there were rich people's toys, if you know what I mean. That's what that was. They were like European rich people's toys. So the idea, so what do you collect? You could find a niche like that.
That's right.
So I've been watching my mother do that. My grandmother collected Hummel figures, not a lot of them, but they didn't have a lot of money. And she thought that was her collection. I mean, I don't think that much of Hummel figures, but she liked them. I mean, everybody sort of identifies, something they collect. I knew somebody collected salt shakers, had like 1,000 salt shakers. A really amazing collection, and wasn't very hard to afford. Carry on.
But for me, I don't know what you do. Where would you put these? I mean, to me, this.
Well, I agree with you that this is the old stay in your lane conversation. Yeah. This is a conversation. So David, another huge collector is David Copperfield. He's a friend of mine. He comes over now and again and he scrutinizes my collection, but he's always telling me to stay in my lane, because he just sees this all often thing. And I keep trying to say, look, I didn't do this. My mother did it. But what Ryan was just showing you was like a little bit out of his lane, because he admits that he doesn't even like those dolls. But on the other hand, like Who Shot JR? That's great. You got the whole cast. How'd you accumulate that?
Now this I made. So this is one of those things. I like the photos. They were all appearing at a convention, and I knew somebody who was going. Our friend Tammy Anastasia. Thank you, Tammy. She was going. And so I had this made. I designed it in Canva. I literally put the 4 faces of the people who were there, and I sent it to her and she got it signed. To me, I absolutely love this. I mean, who didn't grow up, those of us at this age, who didn't grow up asking who shot JR? I mean, that was a big thing. So
Yeah.
I love this. That to me, this was a thing. I love Survivor. So I had these made. I went to a little convention where they all were, and I thought, how do I get all these people? There were so many of them there. So I literally thought, wow, why don't I get a really cool photo? I'll buy the mat and then have them sign the mat.
That's very clever.
So that's what I did.
Very clever.
Yeah. Yeah. The car, use the car, Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd, having a couple of those things, or I think, well, those are CDs, books.
Script?
I don't have a lot of, they're books.
Okay.
I don't have a lot of those things. I thought the Wheel of Fortune item was kind of cool. Pat Sajak and Vanna White. That was a unique thing. But a lot of these things and the birds that you see there, that's like a big canvas.
What a beautiful signature Tippi Hedren has.
She does, and that's big. If you were to see that, that's probably
it's a full-size poster.
12 by 8.
Oh,
it's
okay.
12 by 18, but it's canvas.
Yeah, okay.
So it's really unique.
Well, now you bring up posters for a second. Now, there's many examples of posters in the marketplace that are signed, and in certain cases, you can actually kill the value of a poster. Having it signed, you have to kind of have to know what you're doing here, because there are some posters that are extremely valuable and rare. I have a big poster collection, and they come in condition has a lot to do with it, but you don't want to just put signatures on anything. You saw what he had there, so if he had an original Birds poster, it would be worth a lot of money. And I don't know if you know how much, but I'm going to guess it would be probably $1,200 to $2,000.
Oh, easy. I bet.
Yeah. So, and then you put Tippi's signature in. Because of how beautiful that is, it might actually add value to it. But generally speaking, some of these classic movies, people just want a pure poster in perfect condition, linen backed. I'm a big poster collector, so I think it's important. I don't want signed posters in my collection, other than my mother's.
Well, I pulled this up for people. Hey, if you want to start somewhere, I use them a lot. This is mostly books, but you can see, so Arsenio Hall, he has a book coming out, $35. It will be autographed for you. Susan Lucci has a book out. It's $35. It will be signed.
That's an excellent. I think that's an incredible deal.
It is a really good deal.
And is that a hardback? Is that a hardback, for an example?
It's a hardback. Yeah, hardback edition.
It's a great deal.
It is a great deal. And this site, if someone has a book coming out, there's if you're into politics, there's a lot of political folks who have their books out signed. The Liza Minnelli book was not a lot lot. Now,
let me ask you a question though.
Yeah.
In this case, if I want a Susan Lucci a hardback, I'm just going to get her signature. I can't get her to personalize it.
Not on this site, because what they're doing is they're signing a lot of times.
Right. They sign 50, 100, 200 books, whatever.
Yeah. And then you get the book with the signed book plate in it. But this is a great place if you
PremierCollectibles.com.
PremierCollectibles.com.
Now,
so anyway,
very quickly, go discuss the authentication of something you already have.
Okay, perfect. So let me share this again, and I'll go to that. Let's zip along here. Oh, there we go.
You sure that's her signature?
Well, the game is a really ratty game. So, you talk about what things do you want signed. I know the wedding picture is a little awkward for us to talk about here, but it had.
I just look at all his show business. It's not even real to me.
I know it isn't, but I definitely wanted all 3 signatures there. And then the game was mine. I had that game.
Oh, wow.
It's not even the greatest shape,
but it was yours.
It belonged to me. So it started with him. David Hasselhoff signed it first.
William Daniels is awesome to have the voice.
And William Daniels, yeah. So I had all 3 on both of those. So anyway, I quite like both of those. But anyway, for the COAs, if you see the little sticker at the bottom, there are a couple of reputable places, like that is a JSA. So that's one. There's Billy. There is a Beckett. That's a reputable one as well. And then there are some other places. Those are the 2 biggies, but you could go online and type in that number and you should be able. Now, sometimes you might have people who try to cheat the system, especially if you go on eBay. I think eBay is definitely.
And what do you pay to have that done, or did you buy the item with it?
Usually when I buy them, unless I know the person and the person has, and I'll show you an example or 2 in a little bit here. Unless I know the person has gone out and gotten it themselves and I trust them, I only will buy them if they have that done. Now, if I get it, if you want to send in a photo and have it, have the sticker, put on it because someone has looked over it and they've deemed it's real, $20-$30 maybe.
That's not bad.
It could be worth it depending on to have a Robin Williams. I mean, he's not here anymore. There's probably a lot of those that are fake, especially because he's gone. So, you want something that's, a little more legitimate. Now, here's one. I love the Sixth Sense, but this does not have a sticker, you'll note. And I only bought this. I think I spent $75 on this, but I love the movie.
Why don't you send it in?
The signature. Oh, I will. Absolutely, I will. But I only bought it because I compared his signature to some other signatures online, and I knew the person I was buying it from. Don't buy things from people you really don't know, and certainly don't send them money on PayPal without doing the goods and services. You hear all the time the horror stories of, oh, they wanted me to pay friends and family. Well, if you don't know them, don't do that. You're going to get scammed. So here's the little bit of fun. So for Christmas, my father had my brother and I draw numbers out of a basket, and he probably had 20 of these autographs, and we were, picking numbers, and then we got whatever autograph it was. And my brother and I looked at each other and we thought, these should be good, because he doesn't know what he's doing. So here you go. That's Tommy Lee Jones. What is that? That doesn't even look, like if you look at his signature, that's not even close. And that is the COA that's on the back. And your point exactly. Who showcase company? What is it? That's on just a certificate you buy at Staples. Who is this person?
Well, they're at the end of a dead end road in Texarkana. It's a dirt road. We looked up the address, and it's an old farm that's abandoned, and there's a little barn house out in the back. That's where that is.
Yeah. So here, a question. I just saw someone, how do you know if it's authentic? Well, at the beginning, you definitely don't want to buy anything that doesn't have the little sticker on it. This is not a COA. That is not, here's another one. This one was also 2 lucky things that I won. Both of those are Charlize. Now look, the signatures aren't even the same. That's the sort of thing you start to notice. I hold them up and I'm like, wait a minute, these aren't even the same signature. And then these are the COAs that come along with it. What are these things? Top sign, when you start getting into this, you start to recognize the companies that are legitimate. Top Signing, never heard of them. You can make a certificate look pretty good. We have a nice certificate of authenticity, and yeah, it's a piece of paper, and yeah, you sign it, but they know who you are. There is the provenance to it.
No, I'm
COA. What is it?
I told you the story one time. I was here in Vegas. I think I was with Kat, in fact, and I went to a very expensive, high-end collectible store. They have a lot of posters, a lot of signed things. I'm walking through the store. It's in Caesar's Palace, by the way. It's like a very high-end collectible store. And I'm walking along, and sure enough, they're sitting over there is a big movie poster with Carrie's signature. And I said to Kat, that's not Carrie's signature. And really, she said. I said, no, not even close. So she brings over the salesman, and she says, is that Carrie's signature? He goes, oh, yeah, we don't sell anything but real signatures And we are here in Caesar's Palace, and we are the premier collectibles signature store. And she said, well, that's not Carrie's signature. And he goes, oh, no, it definitely is. Then I chime in. I said, well, I'm Carrie's brother, and I'm telling you that's not her signature. He goes, that's very funny. I said, I'm serious. And I take out my driver's license. I show it to him. He goes and brings the manager over, and the manager starts chatting with me about it. And he pulls the item off the shelf, to their credit, immediately. But where are the autograph police in the real world? They're not. It's just a fluke that I walked in the store at all. Or somebody would have, unsuspecting person would have bought that Carrie Fisher piece, which by the way was hundreds of dollars, and it was bogus. Not even close. I could have done a better job.
Here's my dad buying these thinking, oh, I got a great deal. And like, here's Arnold Schwarzenegger. Come on. There's no way that you bought this for a little bit of money to put in a fun little game at Christmas. He will go for almost $1,000 on a Terminator picture. So there was no way that, and that one stumped me, because there are some elements of it when you compare that are pretty close, but that's not legitimate. So, you know, I'm going to show you some places to go to where it is legitimate, but the last thing you should consider is, do you want it personalized or not? So like Karate Kid, I love Karate Kid. I had all of them sign it. I wanted it personalized. Regis Philbin, I mean, thank goodness I got that signed and personalized when I did, but I saw him in person. So I had that signed at the time. Griffin, I saw him last year. So of course I wanted that, just, you know, the connection and all of that. I
know where you got that.
Yeah.
Now that has fantastic provenance. That item is a very large picture that hung at DR Studios for a long time. And Ryan saw it, and I don't see him react to things much. He's kind of a low key guy. Well, he got wound up about that piece. So that was a gift to you, was it not?
That was my Christmas. I said, I don't want anything else for Christmas except that.
So what's funny is it's for Debbie Reynolds, Madonna, right?
Yep.
And that, but the thing that makes that so cool is it's to Debbie. And the second thing that makes it so cool is it was at DR Studios for 50 years or 40 years, whatever.
And I have that picture of where it hung on the wall.
Oh, see, that's now that's full circle. Plus you've got a video of me now telling the story.
Yeah. And Madonna doesn't really sign much. And again, not that Madonna, this era, that picture, that time is when I would probably say everyone, including myself, liked Madonna. Was that the Like a Virgin era? No, it came after. This was, I think, the True Blue album cover. But it goes back to my high school, my college, all of that time. So to me, like, it was not just the signature. It was the signature on that image, because I'm very particular. People will be like, oh, I have this picture of so-and-so. And I'm like, great, but I need to see the print, because like, if I'm going to put down $125 on a photo, I have a very specific thing in mind that I want. Like I loved Nightmare on Elm Street. I wanted that personalized to me. Happy Days, love Happy Days. So where can you start? So Beverly and Chev, I just saw Beverly. So I got that. And I think the next one too. Kate Jackson. A lot of these I got at cons. So here is one place you can go. Let me see. I think I have the actual.
But you find where those sites are.
Yeah. Well, here, let me go out of order a little bit. But here's a place called Official Picks. Totally legit. They do signings all the time. Tom Selleck. There you go. Let's see how much Tom Selleck is. So $89. You can pick a picture. You know, they'll give you options and have it signed to you or not. Catherine Zeta-Jones, Michael J. Fox. He's probably a little more expensive. Yeah, 200 and some. But you probably should get him now. Yeah, so that's they have
let's move forward on this, because we're an hour and a half in, and I think where can you?
Yeah, what do you want to know?
Well, no, I want them to go to. I wanted them to know the sites that they can go to find the autograph shows. So let's just, like you just did.
Here
You got SWAU.
SWAU.
What's
You
another
can
one?
Go there. They have signings. And then the Hollywood Show, they have photos there from past.
So hollywoodshow.com.
Yep. Go to the shop and you can actually do some shopping. You can see who's coming up. Steel City Con, if you live near Pittsburgh. These are the folks showing up there. There's loads of them. You can see all the people who show up. Loads of them. Chiller is near me. So that's coming up next month. Some pretty decent people there. And that might be all that I have, actually.
Well, no, that's a lot. But the point is that if you want to start, now that's kind of a solid way to get started, because you are going directly to a place where the person is in many cases, and you're waiting in line and getting them to sign it. I mean, you can't beat that, because you get to say, I was there when I got this signed. So that's a pretty cool thing to do, but that can't work because a lot of people are gone. So you do have to eventually fill in the blanks with people that are not here. And then you
these
need
are investments.
Oh, yes, no doubt. I don't think, I think autographs, especially if you're willing to sit on it for a while. Like if you're young, like Ryan and other people, you know, when Ryan's my age, what do you think his collection is going to be worth? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I say that seriously. I mean, I was collecting stuff even before Ryan, you know, in my teens and 20s. And a lot of that stuff is off the charts in terms of what it's worth. I had an opportunity to collect some very rare things, and it's very valuable. And I also had pretty much a feeling for what might become valuable, which is why earlier in my stories, I hope you're reading in between the lines, I'm telling you to look and try to perceive what might become rare, who might become more famous. You know, film just becomes a classic. We got Academy Awards coming up. Who's going to win? What would happen to those people? You know, are they going to be super famous one day? You think back on a lot of stars today that are huge stars. Obviously, there was a time when they were not. I mean, Carrie Fisher was absolutely nobody. Harrison Ford wasn't even a big star when Star Wars was made. Mark Hamill was also a nobody. The biggest star in Star Wars was Alec Guinness. He was the only one that had a name. Everybody else was pretty much nobody. Although the voice of obviously the voice of Darth Vader was clearly, you know, everybody knows him. But you know what I'm saying? You got to look into this stuff a little further, and you can be tricky. And in time, this stuff could be valuable. And that's assuming you don't have money to invest in some of these bigger items. Bigger items you can buy if you buy them right. They can be bought and flipped. I know people that have bought things and flipped for many, many times. You just recently saw a pair of the ruby slippers sell for $30 million. So, you know, my mother was on the right track buying that stuff. There are lots of examples of that going around. So, hey, Ryan, thank you so much for all that information. Hope you guys appreciated getting those stories from him, because I think it's important. I'm one kind of a collector. He's another kind of a collector. You're going to be another collector. Everybody's kind of their own unique collector. You get to decide what the parameters are of what you're collecting, and how much you can afford and not afford, because there is no end to it. I was just explaining when I saw that one doll, you know, he said he doesn't care about it. So there's an example of him even admitting that he's outside of his lane. But then he started to justify it real quickly as to why he had it. So, I mean, we all do that. No, I mean, seriously, we all do that. So I have a lot of things I showed. Like, I'll give you something like, this is worth looking at for a second before we go. Close up. So there's a really rare piece. So color blown up still to Debbie from Gene Kelly. You know, this is a personal item that my mother had hanging on her wall forever. It says, remember when we looked like this, love, Gene. And so how much is that worth? So in an estate sale, you could run into something like that. And, and you might find something, a personalized autograph photo. I bought in here in Vegas in 1993. I went to a state auction here in Vegas. There was and I just happened to go to this estate sale. There were approximately 20 Hurrells signed, 11 by 14, stamped Hurrell and autographed to a particular person. I believe he was like a cinematographer. And I bought the whole collection for nothing, $50, $100. I bought them one at a time. They sold them off one. I bought every single picture. When I sold those many years later at our auctions, I profited many, 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 many times. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. I knew what I was looking at. Other people thought they were cool pictures, but they didn't know what it meant, and I did. I saw a couple of them sold for $10,000. So I paid $100. It went for $10,000. These are good numbers. Now, I don't collect still pictures like that. So for me to have it, it was just I happened to know something about it. And I knew that they were old school ballpoint pen signatures, classics, and I knew they were Hurrell's. Who the hell would have a signed Hurrell unless it was a real signature? You wouldn't do it. So anyway, I hope you've learned something and had a little fun along the way here. Ryan has got the super wheel up right now, which is from last week when Kat and I were doing a show. And so any people that had donated to the show, even $1 or otherwise, get put into a super wheel. And we have a prize, and I'll just explain what the prize is. Do you know what the prize is? Because I'll just make it if you don't, Ryan.
We were going to give away a Zoom call unless you had something else.
Well, we'll give them a choice. So we'll do you can have a choice of the Zoom call with Kat and I, or you can have one of the Frank Worth prints that we showed last week, which would be one of Monroe, Sinatra, James Dean, etc. So we'd let you pick one Frank Worth print, or you can have a Zoom call with Kat and I. So having said that, you're off and running, Ryan.
All right.
Again, these are the people that donated last week. Dwayne Shell is the winner. Dwayne Shell, you're the winner. So Dwayne donated last week. And if any of you donated this week, you will be put into the wheel for next week. And there's always a cool prize. Dwayne, you just email Ryan on the back end, let him know if you want the Zoom call or you want a Frank Worth print. The Frank Worth prints could be the beginning of a collection. Frank Worth prints are very collectible. They can go for hundreds of dollars. The ones we have are original prints, photographic prints, not digital prints. So these are really collectible. So I encourage you to just write into Ryan and let him know what you want. Good going there, Dwayne. All right, everybody, have a fantastic rest of your weekend. God bless you, and we'll be watching out for you next week. Meanwhile, Todd Fisher signing off from Las Vegas.
Hey, I'm Catherine Hickland. Some of you may know me best from One Life to Live, but I also own catcosmetics.com, only the best cosmetics in the world. I use the Miracle Working Kit for mother and daughter. It's easy to use, works for all skin types, and comes with a how-to DVD. So if you want to look 10 years younger in less than 5 minutes, or you just want to look more beautiful than you've ever been in your life, come on over to catcosmetics.com and make sure you sign up for special discounts, new products, and inspirations.
Gee, but it's good to be here. Frankly, I feel right at home. This is where all the excitement is. This is champagne with all the fears. Gee, but it's good to be here. I really feel it reform. There's nothing like this, not anywhere. There's a magic that fills the air. I'm so ecstatic. And I could yell, and I could dance about. To be emphatic, I could shout it out. It's good to be here. We wouldn't miss this for the world. But it's my considered opinion that the place to be is the place I'm at, and I couldn't be more sincere.